Well, number one, retirement means that a lot of guys that wanted to retire weren't able to retire, and a lot of them that really wanted to retire on their own, they couldn't retire on their own because they either got hurt or something tragic happened at the mine and they had to bring them out and they never came back. But thank God that I was able to walk away, not to be taken away. But nevertheless, all of those years that I have worked there, I really enjoyed doing what I was doing, and I always tried to make sure that I was safe in doing them. But nevertheless, either way you look at it, something gonna happen one way or the other. Something that we have never will have control of. But in the other sense, I've been hurt 3 times since I've been there. But nevertheless, God able me to go back and finish my years in the mine, which you just mentioned was 36 years in the mine, and that He allowed me, like I just mentioned, to walk away and be able to retire and do some of the things that I want to do without having to punch in a clock every morning. But nevertheless, I want to do some traveling. I want to take it and do some things around the house that I couldn't do when I was working because, like you said, I worked 7 days a week, 16 hours on Sunday, every Sunday, and then sometime through the week I would stay over 2 or 3 hours, sometime 8 hours, and then whenever I get home, I'm dead tired, but I was determined to go and do what I had to do to support my family, and that's what I done. A lot of time I would get home at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I get into bed, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the floor again, going back out to do my job, which I got perfect attendance several times since I've been there, and I wasn't the type that to lay off just because I stayed over, but I had an obligation within the company when they hired me to do my job and go head on. But nevertheless, I did that, and then a lot of them respect me for that. And right now, they could tell you now, when I left there in good standing. And probably if I needed to go back, which I'm not going back, I probably could with no problem. But what I'm looking forward to do is, like I say, traveling, doing some of the things I want to do, and go visit my grandkids and go make sure they is keeping it behind in school and doing what they're supposed to do. But that's is mainly what I like doing, and I just enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. And yesterday, matter of fact, was the day that I signed my papers of separation from Jim Walter Number 4 Mine. Well, the reason I did it, because we have a lot of young guys that come in the mines. A lot of them is 19, 20, 21 years old. I was a young man when I started in the mine.
How old were you?
27, 28 years old. But nevertheless, I wanted them to know firsthand exactly what could happen to them in the mine. But nevertheless, you got a bunch of them down there that they had a tendency that they know everything. I know what I'm doing. But all in all, you don't know what you're doing because you never been in that kind of environment. But I wanted them to actually see what could happen to them in a split second. It don't take long. And either way you go, whenever it happened to you, you have a lot of time to think about what the older guys had told you about. Be careful. Listen to the older guys. You got a lot of them down there will listen, which I have confronted several guys down there about something that they was doing and which they did not know what they was doing. And I would, no sooner I catch them doing it, I would call them to the side and I would talk with them just like they're my kids. I always tell them, I said, y'all just like my sons, because I got a young man, he's 25 years old, got one 30, but I talk to them the same way. You know, I don't care what color you is or who you is. I love people. And I would always call them to the side, and they always call me Pop. Okay, Pop, I ain't gonna do that no more. Well, actually, they mean a lot to me because in life, you never know who you can trust, but nevertheless, either way it goes, you're gonna have to trust somebody sooner or later. but you had to earn that trust. And even earning that trust, sooner or later you'll figure out who you can trust, what kind of friend they are, who you can go to when you need them, when you're down and out. Go to them and for a favor, whatever. But even though at the end of the day, whenever you do what you can do all day long, you go home, forget about work. But nevertheless, some people can't forget about it. Some people can't. Even though the job that I had there, working for different bosses, especially Ronnie, I had to run under mine majority of the time, and the only thing I had to do is tell him that I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on that, and then first thing out of his mouth, he said, "Why are you telling me?" And he said, "You go do it." And a lot of time I didn't tell him what I was doing, but he knew one thing, that his work was getting done. And don't get me wrong now, like I said, I've been working for Ronnie 36 years. I knew Ronnie before he come down there from the mine. He come from number 3 mine. Me and Ronnie, we had different things on our mind, different problems here and different problems there, not serious problems, but either way it went, we worked our problems out. And Ronnie respected me as being a union person. I respected Ronnie as being a company man. But in the end of the day, me and Ronnie, we seen eye to eye. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it. We didn't argue. We disagreed to certain things. But either way it went, we worked it out. And even at the worst times, we still worked it out. And some things we done in the mine, as far as trying to get our job done, we did it and went on about our business. And that's just the way it was. And so as time went on, there was a bond there that I guess I would say that you don't never know who you're going to bond with, considering everything that's going on, because as you work around people every day, that's what happens. And then before you know it, it just happens that way. I said, for instance, like Peanut. When Peanut come from Nebo Mine down there, I didn't know nothing about Peanut. But we just got to talking and just carried on, and as time went on, we began to have a close relationship. Y'all were little bitty kids. He had little kids. He would call me and I would call him. He would even come over, him and his wife Kat, and we would go over there, and then all of a sudden, that bond began to happen. And then so that's how I began to fall in this category with him and just talk about him, and then me and him just carry on a lot of mess all the time. And then we just began to be good friends. And then as time went on, he knew who I was and I knew who he was. But sometimes you don't never know the good people that you be around all the time, but all of a sudden that bond just falls in there, just like mortar falls into a crack. And then that's just the way it happened, mostly with all those people. But those people that I've been around all of those years, and especially, like I said, Leonard and Ronnie, Peanut, Starworth, Norman, and I even call Norman now, not every day, not every week, but I stay in touch with him at work. I call him at work. I know what time he go eat lunch, and I call and talk with him a few minutes, see how he done, see how his wife done, and just to chat with him for a few minutes. But like I say, whenever they leave the mine, you'll never see a lot of them again. Each one of them bond is different, because like I tell you about me and Leonard bond, we always like helping people, and that's something that he is good at, and that's something he like done, and so that's something and that we talk about all the time. That's Peanut there. Actually, my daddy years ago had asked me did I ever want to work in the coal mine, and I always told him, I said, no. I said, I'm not going in that hole.
How old were you?
About 15, 16 years old. When I started, January 17, 1977. And
that was your first day?
That was the first day, yeah.
And when was your last day?
My last day was January 17, 2013. And your mama used to tell me all the time, she don't see how I do it. I said, I worked all of my life when I numbered 8 years old, couldn't hardly reach the handles on a plow with my daddy. I worked all those years doing that, and I guess I get it from the whole family works. Cause my brother Lee, he was a go-getter. He worked in the cordwood back years ago when they didn't have that thing what you call skidders to pick the logs up and put them on top of the truck. They had to pick them up, get them on the shoulder, throw them up on the side of the truck with a man up there with a hook and pull them up. And that was hard working. I even load cordwood myself, nothing like he did, but I, pill around out there, and it was hard work. And you work all day long lifting that heavy stuff and get $8 a day. Oh yeah, my whole family work. My one we call Snakehead, Gene. All of them is go-getters. Gene, my brother, we call him Hot, named Theodore, and Gail, Yvonne, Shirley, Ida Bear, my grandmama, Julia Thomas. She always would say, be careful how you treat people because you don't never know who you going to need. You don't never know who's going to give you a drink of water. You don't ever know who's going to have to wipe your behind. You don't know. But sharing that with you and going back to the racist thing that we had to endure while we was there was not right. But nevertheless, the company thought it was right because the company was white and they owned Jim Walter. And they allowed a lot of it to happen, but I don't guess they was trained to not do that, to not condone that, but they did. And even though they allowed it, and we had some great artists there and could draw anything, and if they got something that happened in the mind, the next morning you had a cartoon of it. Black man drawed on paper with big lips, big eyes, just ridiculous the way it was done. And they didn't hide it. They would take him and get a thumbtack, and they'll take it and stick it on over the time clock, or stick it anywhere they could stick it for everybody to get a laugh out of it, And when it just kept getting worse and worse, so me and 3 more guys decided to do something about it. So when they would put the ugly signs up of Negroes doing this and Negroes doing that, and would just uncalled for, they would only have just one picture. They would draw one, and then they'd go to the copy machine, and they'll run off a bunch of them. They'd be everywhere, and I would take them. I would get one, and what I would do as I got them, I would take them, put the date on it, the date that I got it. And you even seen one of the one I had back in 1997 on it, because every time I would get one, and so me and 3 more guys, we had sit down and talked about it. So we need to, they sue the hell out of them because it's uncalled for discrimination. And so that's what we did. And all those pictures that we had, I took them down to EEOC, and they looked at them and listened to what I had to say. And he said, well, y'all have a case if y'all want to pursue it. And so that's what we done. And we end up going to court. Not going to court, they sell out of court.